Amid the harsh lands of Africa exists a community that sends chills down the spine of anyone who hears its name. It is considered one of the most aggressive tribes in the world, a place where a life can be taken with nothing more than an old AK-47, and where brutal stick fights erupt as naturally as daily conversations. Anyone unarmed who happens to step into their territory is often robbed without a moment's hesitation. The women of this tribe carry cuts and self-inflicted deformities on their bodies, all for the chance to marry the strongest man, the one capable of protecting them from the dangers lurking on every side. Meanwhile, the men spend their entire lives in relentless battles just to earn the right to marry, but this is only the surface of the brutality that exists here. There are far harsher realities that make this tribe more fearsome than any other community in the region. They are known as the Suri, name that evokes wildness, daring, and raw violence deep within the Omo Valley. Hidden deep within southwestern Ethiopia, the Omo Valley stretches out like a forgotten land where hot winds sweep across cracked earth, and the sky is forever tinted with a scorched gray. This harsh region has long been known as the home of the Suri people, a collection of indigenous groups who have survived here since ancient times, surrounded by unforgiving nature and an atmosphere so wild it feels suffocating. The community carries the distinct mystery of an ancestral people living completely apart from the pace of the modern world. Their traditional ways remain untouched, as if time itself cannot lay a finger on them. What makes the Suri stand out are the cultural markings carved into each person's body. Tattoos etched with crude blades, skin sliced into raised, rugged patterns, and the massive clay lip plates worn by women all combine to create a look that is both unusual and haunting. Meanwhile, the men of the tribe carry the aura of warriors born from earth and sunlight. Strong, hardened bodies, cold and steady eyes, and a stance that seems ready to face danger at any moment. They are the very reason the Suri are known as one of the fiercest and most formidable groups in the entire Omo Valley. In the midst of that barren valley, their society runs on a single rule: only the strong get to keep living. Strength, toughness, and the ability to endure pain are considered essential values required at every moment. This is what makes the community one of the most feared tribes in the entire Omo region. Every man who walks beneath the red dust sky carries a weapon. Old battered guns are always strapped to their bodies not for show, but to ensure survival in the face of sudden conflicts. In this scorched land territory, and cattle are worth more than anything else. That is why clashes between tribes never truly stop. They simply wait beneath the surface, ready to ignite like embers buried under ash. The men spend most of their lives guarding their cattle, the lifeline, wealth, and pride of every family. Meanwhile, the women cling quietly to the soil, planting seeds, tending crops, and especially growing corn, the staple that keeps the entire community alive. Their material life is simple to the point of harshness. Huts made from straw and thatch serve as their only shelter against the burning sun. Inside, there is nothing but darkness, a few crude tools, and the faint warmth from a fire set in the center of the home. Whatever corn remains after each harvest is burned for heat and also becomes their main source of food. Their daily tools are even more modest. Dried gourds are cut into bowls and plates. Animal hides are spread across the ground to replace beds. Everything bears the marks of scarcity, of a life centered entirely around surviving the unforgiving wilderness and the dangers lurking all around. The women of this land carry on their bodies an entire treasury of traditions preserved through countless generations. Every gesture, every object they use is steeped in the harshness of a wild and unforgiving life. Even the tool they use for smoking is crafted from whatever nature throws into their hands, a hollowed-out gourd with a rough surface adorned only by a small dark wooden piece attached where the tobacco is packed. In their community, smoking is reserved only for those who have crossed the threshold of adulthood or have become mothers. Young girls are not allowed to smoke. Only when time leaves its marks on them, or when the first child rests in their arms, are they permitted to lift that special tool to their lips, a sign that they now belong to the ranks of the tribe's true women. Beyond that, they brew a cloudy red drink made from cornstarch, a fermented mixture with a sharp, pungent taste that warms the body and sends the mind drifting as if intoxicated by the dry breath of this land. For them, it is more than a beverage. It is a delicacy of the harsh grasslands, something that helps them withstand the cold nights, the mountain winds, and the long, exhausting days beneath the burning sun. In this land, the lips of Suri women reveal the cruelest face of tradition. When the heavy plates slip out of place, the flesh around the mouth tears layer by layer. To keep the wound from spreading and to help the skin continue stretching, they rub hot, gritty ash from the fire onto it. That ash seals the torn flesh while forcing the lips to expand faster, preparing them for the next even larger plate, as if pain itself were a path they are required to walk. This practice was not born from beauty, but from the desperation of the slave trading era. Long ago, when attractive women were hunted and captured to be sold, they chose to deform themselves. They cut their lips, pulled the soft flesh wider, and inserted a rough clay ring inside it. A distorted face became the only shield protecting them from being dragged away like merchandise. From those dark days, girls in the tribe began having their lips pierced when they were still very young. As the years passed, the opening was widened slowly, bit by bit, using crude, painful tools. What once served as a way to escape death eventually became a defining symbol of this people. Stranger still, it transformed into a measure of beauty. The larger the plate, the greater the value of the girl. To wear plates bigger than normal size 2 or 3 lower front teeth are pulled out without hesitation. The empty space allows the clay disc shaped by hand and fired in flame to lock tightly into the mouth, standing as undeniable proof of endurance. For Suri women, the lip plate is not merely an ornament. It is a mark of relentless strength, of prolonged suffering, and of a kind of beauty intertwined with brutality, a beauty that no other place in the world can imitate. Amid the fierce landscapes of the Suri people, there is one sight that always makes observers pause. The bodies of the women here are covered in countless raised markings, as if each carved line records a layer of memory from this wild and ancient land. When the midday sun hits those scars, the image that appears is both chilling and irresistibly intriguing. These marks are not meaningless wounds. Behind them are stories handed down through generations, much like tattoos carved with blades, and an almost unbelievable level of courage. According to their beliefs, the more scars a woman has, the more her beauty is admired. The cuts are made intentionally, not by accident, but as a way of adorning the body with pain itself. Every patch of raised skin stands as proof of endurance, a sign that makes her more appealing in the eyes of the tribe's men. And it isn't only their bodies. Their hair carries its own distinctiveness. At first glance, their hairstyles can be startling, with strands braided twisted and shaped into unusual striking forms. But for the Suri, this is a language of identity. In a crowd, one can tell a woman's status simply by looking at her hair. A high, elaborately braided style signals that she is still single. A simpler, more modest hairstyle indicates she already has a partner. And a style adorned with clay or rough ornaments usually belongs to women who are already settled in marriage. Each hairstyle becomes a silent symbol, a message they never need to speak aloud. In the life of this tribe, marriage customs follow their own strict rules. A wedding is not simply the union of 2 people, but a transaction based on cattle. When a man wants to marry, he must prepare a bride price, and the number of cattle he gives depends directly on the size of the woman's lip plate. The larger the plate, the more cattle he must offer. Yet in recent years, many young women have avoided lip piercing. According to an older woman wearing a faded cloth garment, the ritual is so painful that many girls refuse to undergo it. Because of this, women who do not wear lip plates often struggle to find husbands, while those who accept the tradition are chosen more easily. A thin woman, her face tightening as she recalled the past, explained that every woman in her family, from her mother to her sisters, had their lips pierced. She alone refused to endure the cutting, so she was forced to wear ear plates instead. When she spoke about it, her voice carried a clear sense of regret, as if she would choose differently if given the chance. Each afternoon, the women of the village gather in front of the female leader's home to talk. In the stories they share, one woman said that her entire life was shaped by the size of her lip plate. It was the largest plate in the group that allowed her husband's family to bring her home with a very high bride price, something that became a source of pride for her family. By the end of the day, the women's joy revolves mostly around caring for their children. They pay attention to every breath, every smile of the little ones, seeing them as the reward for all their hardships. For their children, they accept every sacrifice and continue upholding the traditions passed down through generations. For Suri women, the marks of tradition on their bodies are not burdens. They see them as essential pieces of their identity, things that must be preserved. In the stories they tell, there is always both joy and sorrow, reflecting the full reality of life within their tribe. Throughout the journey of observing this tribe's way of life, the image of the men emerges most clearly through their relationship with their cattle. For them, cattle are not only a source of food, but a symbol of honor and status. Most of their day is spent shadowing each cow, moving constantly across dry grasslands to protect them from wild animals and rival groups lurking in the sparse forest. Here, men can be seen as lifelong herdsmen tied to the steady rhythm of hoofsteps striking the hardened earth. At their sides, weapons are ever present. Many old AK-47 rifles, originally from South Sudan, still appear in their daily lives. After the Ethiopian Civil War ended, armed groups along the border sold these guns to the Suri and neighboring tribes. The presence of such weapons has made conflicts between tribes even more violent, especially when they involve cattle, the most valuable possession they own. The fact that young men must offer at least 20 cows to marry only escalates these clashes. Groups that lack enough cattle or cannot meet the required amount often resort to stealing from weaker tribes. For communities without weapons, their herds can be taken in a single armed encounter. One man recounted what is commonly seen in this region. He said that men here grow up alongside their cattle, drinking red water and cow's milk to strengthen their bodies, and later depending on those same animals to build a family. But according to him, nothing is ever simple. Other tribes frequently appear suddenly to steal cattle. Anyone who happens to witness it and tries to intervene can be killed on the spot. Because of this, fighting becomes unavoidable. As the man put it, only the strong can endure, the weak lose everything. Among the dietary customs of this tribe, one item is considered a vital source of life: fresh, bright red blood taken from a living cow. Only the older cows, thin and no longer valuable, are chosen for this unusual ritual. When the moment comes, a sharp arrow is stabbed directly into the neck, where the pulsing vessel lies beneath the tough, dry skin. The red liquid surges out and is quickly caught in an old clay bowl. Without hesitation, they drink the still warm fluid, believing it to be the strongest source of energy nature can offer. Remarkably, the cow is not killed. Once the blood flow stops, the wound is sealed with a thick, dark brown mixture of soil. After a while, the animal stands again, its breathing steadying as if it had never undergone such a harsh extraction. In the late afternoon, as the wind swept through the straw-roofed huts, the tribe's leader, a man with battle-worn eyes and a posture as steady as an ancient tree, shared the thoughts he had carried for years. His voice was deep, echoing through the dry air, each sentence holding the heaviness of long-standing conflict. He said that from sunrise to nightfall, his care for the villagers guides everything he does. The tribe's reputation may not be favorable in the eyes of outsiders, but he emphasized that anyone who arrives with peaceful intentions, whether a traveler or someone from another tribe, is welcomed without hesitation. This land, he said, has never been a closed territory. It has always opened itself to those who come without harm in mind. When he spoke of the past, his gaze drifted into the distance. He recounted a time when the surrounding tribes lived like one large community sharing land and resources. But over the years, that unity shattered, giving rise to increasingly violent disputes. The land shrank, the herds grew smaller, and they were forced to remain constantly alert against greedy and hostile tribes. Regarding the weapons his people now use, the leader pointed toward the rifles leaning against the hut wall and explained that they came from far to the north. They are remnants of brutal wars elsewhere sold to the tribe for self-defense. Yet the number they possess is far too small, not enough to secure the village and the cattle against the threats that lurk beyond the grasslands. His story ended with a heavy truth. When observing the culture of the Suri people, the sense of difference becomes unmistakably clear. Their customs, practices, and social norms often appear unfamiliar to the modern world. Yet beneath that wild exterior, they are still human beings born from the same origin as all other communities on this planet. The deeper one steps into their land, the more apparent it becomes that there are gaps between cultures that can never truly be closed. Entering the world of a tribe does not mean instantly understanding how they live, think, or safeguard their traditions. Many of their customs may confuse outsiders, but for them, these traditions are the foundation that has allowed them to survive for generations. Somewhere out there, in lands even more remote, there may be tribes even stranger or more unbelievable than the Suri communities, about whom the outside world knows almost nothing, not their rules, nor their distinct cultural identities. The existence of such cultures is a reminder that the world is far larger than we imagine, and no one can ever fully grasp every corner of it.